on irrational and finding angle measure. So we'll get to all that later. This screen shows you the real number system, like what you classify each number as. So it starts with natural numbers, which are numbers that you count with. You start with the number 1 when you count. Whole numbers includes all natural numbers and the number 0. Integers is a category that includes negative numbers. So far no decimals, right? Now all of those are rational numbers, they fall in this category, and decimals and fractions are also rational, because to be rational it has to be able to be written as a fraction. That's why irrational over here are numbers that cannot be written as a fraction. So everything here belongs to rational, everything there belongs to irrational. We'll get to the right side later. So rational includes square roots that are perfect roots, like square root of 1 equals 1. That's why it's considered a perfect root. Those belong on rational because they clear up to a regular number, which can be written as a fraction. So can decimals that stop, like 2.25, or decimals that repeat, 2.33333 or 2.3 repeated. All of that can be used, written as a decimal and a fraction. So they're considered rational. Right? But numbers like pi that go on forever, I forgot the numbers, they go on forever, right? That is considered irrational. And the only thing that gives you a decimal that goes on forever are square roots that are not perfect. So if you see, I skipped over the perfect ones because they don't belong here. And pi, of course. So that's just the classification part of it. Now, these are the style of questions. On each page here, I put all the perfect squares so we can answer the questions easier. But let's just talk about the perfect roots first. So 1 to the second power equals 1. That's why 1 is a perfect square, perfect root. So same thing happens here in reverse. The square root of 1 equals 1. Square root of 2 equals 2. Square root of 4 equals 2. Square root of 9 equals 3. And so on. So with this, you can see where irrational square roots like this fall between and which number they're closer to. And pretty simple. So you have the number 8 inside of your radical. So you can just look at the radical portion here. Do you think square root of 8 is closer to square root of 4 or square root of 9? It's closer to square root of 9, which means the value is closer to 3. So now let's answer these questions. Square root of 8 is a rational number. That is incorrect because that is not a perfect root. Square root of 8 is irrational. Yep, it's irrational. So the approximate value of square root of 8 is between 2 and 3. So we know that the number was below 3 but close to 3. So it is between 2 and 3. This is correct. Okay. So if this is correct, then the next one cannot be correct. It is not between 3 and 4 because it would have been higher than 9 in here. And now the last part, square root of 8 is greater than square root of 7. That's obvious. Check the box. Alright, you also may get questions like these. These are pretty easy because all you have to do is turn these fractions into decimals and then see which one is greater than what square root of 2 is. So because they're saying greater, you can just pick your biggest decimal. And you know it's gotta be the only answer greater than square root of 2. Same process here. Alright, let's go to the next page here. Select all numbers that are rational. So rational means they can be written as a fraction. Perfect squares, like square root of 64 that equals 8, belong on rational. A fraction, of course, belongs on rational, because rational means can be written as a fraction. A repeating decimal here, check. And now pi is irrational, so you cannot check that box. And square root of 8 here is irrational, so you cannot check that box. Alright, you also might get questions like this where you just have to order from least to greatest. Right, so the main thing is remembering that negative numbers have to be smaller than positive numbers. So once we figure out what numbers these square roots are close to, don't forget that the negative belongs to it, so you don't make a mistake. So as far as the lowest number, it has to be the biggest negative value, because the lower you go to the left, the bigger the number looks, but it's a negative category. It's going down. So let's just first look and take a kind of a guess, an estimate on square root of 3. Square root of 3 would be closer to square root of 4 than it would to square root of 1. So we know the number is going to be between 1 and 2, but it's closer to 2. So we can use negative 1.8 or 9 as an estimate for that. Now we can divide negative 12 by 5 and then write the decimal for that one. So 5 goes into 12 twice, the remainder is 2. 5 cannot go into 2, so you put a decimal, add a 0. 5 times 4 gives you 20. Perfect. So now we have negative 2.4 for the second value. Let's go to the third option, which is square root of 2. Now square root of 2 is also between these two values, but it's closer to square root of 1. So the number has to be below 1.5, which is the midpoint between 1 and 2. So let's use 1.3 or 1.2 as an estimate for this one. And that's a positive value because there's no negative on that square root of 2 here. And now 3 divided by 2 equals 1.5. Square root of 4 equals positive 2. So this is all the values that are in here. We just got to order it from lowest to greatest. So the biggest negative value is the lowest value. So negative 2.4 should go first, which was our negative 12 over 5. So now we know it has to be between these two values. Then it's negative 1.8, which was our square root of 3. They're both correct here. And now this next one's going to get us the correct answer. The next value is 1.3. And 1.3 was from square root of 2. So the answer has to be C. Alright, now let's answer these questions. Remember, if you need a little help, you can just look at this. And these are all the perfect roots. So square root of 5 is a rational number. 5 is not a perfect root. 4 and 9 are. 5 is in between that. So it is irrational. Square root of 5 would be closer to square root of 4 than it would 9. So the answer has to be close to 2. So between 2 and 3 would be the correct one, not between 4 and 6. And now square root of 5 is less than square root of 4. That's incorrect. Square root of 5 is greater than square root of 4. So you can't check that box, only these two. Alright, now we get to the angles and triangles here. So these are just important concepts that you need to know to answer questions on it. So acute just means that the angle is below 90 degrees. If you see something that says right angle, that means that there's a 90-degree angle in there. Obtuse means it's greater than 90 degrees. But it can't pass 180 because 180 is a straight line. A straight line is 180 degrees. Now, same way a straight line is 180 degrees, the three angles inside of a triangle, if you add them up, they have to be equal to 180. Now, down here, it's explained, right? Same rule, just another image. And then this last part, the side measurements of a triangle, any two sides added must be greater than the other side. So we'll get to those examples later. But for example, if it was 2, 5, and 7, 2 plus 5 must be greater than 7. That's not greater than 7, it's equal to it. So these cannot be measurements for a triangle. Alright, so let's start with some examples here on these kinds of questions. Alright, so first of all, this first question, it'll help me explain it to you. If two angles are right in front of each other, like 2 and 4, or like 1 and 3, they're called vertical angles. And they are equal to each other. So, if it's not right across each other, and they're next to each other like 1 and 4, or 2 and 3, those are called linear pairs. And those make a straight line, which is 180 degrees. So those two have to be added together and must be equal to 180. They have to be. So over here, let's just check the boxes. 1 and 2 are right next to each other, so we have to add to 180. 1 and 3 should be equal. 3 and 4 are right next to each other, so they need to add up to 180. 2 and 4. Let me clear that up so we can see it. 2 and 4 are right in front of each other, right across each other, so they are equal to each other, vertical angles. So that's the concept you're going to use when you're finding these missing values here. Alright, so first of all, you have 112 degrees here. Alright, you have angle 1, which is what they want you to come up with. And you have 140. So already we can see that 140, this angle here, has to be equal to the entire angle on the other side, which is the 112 plus the measurement of angle 1. So those angles together have to equal 140 degrees. So we can just put the 140 after the equal sign, solve this by just subtracting 112. And now we know the measurement of angle 1 equals 28 degrees. Alright, so the same concept here. 135 is this giant angle. Right across from it will be this whole angle over here, which is consistent of 30 plus that missing angle, and together it has to equal 180 because 135, because it should be equivalent to it. So now we solve it by just subtracting 30 from both sides, and we get angle 1 as 105 degrees. Alright, let's try a few more on the next page. Only this page and one more page left. Alright, so here we see a square. That square tells you that it's 90 degrees, if you don't remember from the inside, from the first page. So 90 degrees is that 62.5 plus this missing angle. And the missing angle they want is XWZ. XWZ is this entire piece. So all we have to do now is figure out this missing piece by subtracting 90 minus your 62.5, and that'll give you 27.5. And now the other side has to be 90 degrees. So now they're asking for this whole piece here, which is the 90 and the piece that you just calculated over here, 27.5. Add them up and you get your answer. So again, let me clear that up and kind of walk you through what we did. We found this missing piece by subtracting 90 minus your 62.5, and it gave us 27.5 here. And now the angle they want is X. You go to the letter W, Z, which is that big angle. The little one and this one, which has to be 90 degrees, because if the other side is 90, this side is 90, to make 180 for your straight line. Alright, let's try another one down here. Well, let's try this one here first. Alright, so first of all, we need to find out what this interior angle is for the triangle. To find that out, we can just subtract 180 minus 133 to get the missing piece, because that's a straight line, which must be 180. So we know that the inside part has to be 47. And now 19 plus 47 plus that missing angle in here, which is 2, angle 2, must be 180. So all you have to do first is add these two numbers together, which gives you 66 plus the measure of angle 2 equals 180. Now you can subtract that from both sides, and then you know the measurement of angle 2 equals 114. So we already know the answer to the second box here, second question. And now to find the measurement of angle 1, we use what we got for angle 2 here. So let me clear it up and label angle 2 with the number we just got, 114. Now we find this missing piece here by subtracting 180 minus your 114, because it's a straight line here, so it has to be 180. That gives you 66 degrees. Now we can finally find the measure of angle 1 by adding 82 plus 66, and then you're going to subtract it from 180 after. So this gives you 148. Subtract that from both sides, and now we have the measurement of angle 1 as 32 degrees. Alright, here's another question here. Same process here, but there's variables included. So we're just going to work out the expressions with this same setup. So put all these values they're telling you that are inside together with a plus sign between them. So 3x minus 9 plus 6x plus 45 minus x. And then put equal to 180, because adding those together must be equal to 180. Now on the left side, let's collect like terms. You have 3x plus 6x minus x, which if you do it all together, it gives you 8x. And you have this and 5. That's a 36. 980. Now it's just a two-step. You find the value first. This on both sides. That equals 4. 18. I'm asking for x or g, and I need y. So replace your 18 where your x is. Subtract 45 minus 18, and you answer as 27. Alright, last page. What's the response? Alright, give me a second and we'll do the last couple questions. I don't want you to miss it. We're just waiting to open.